So with all that said and done and the technicalities around the AGM itself out of the way, I get now to present a President's Address. And as part of that President's Address, I really want to go back and reflect on the year that was 2021, quite an extraordinary year for the Melbourne Football Club. I'm going to get you all to cast your minds back to the start of our AFL season when our AFL women's team fell just short of making the grand final. We lost to Adelaide in our semi-final. Each year so far, we've come so close to actually making the grand dance with our women's team. We won our semi against GWS in 2020, but because of COVID, unfortunately, we didn't even play a final series. So that was very disappointing. Our women have had a fantastic start to 2022. I think one of the standout things for us is the couple of games that the women have played in the last 2 weeks against Brisbane and North Melbourne. They were gutty, gritty, really hard-fought wins, and I think that has shown just where our team are in terms of their development. They're working together as a group, and their desire to really want to take that next step and raise an AFLW Premiership Cup. Can I thank, in particular, Mick Stanier and our coaching team? We know that all our coaches, all head coaches, are critical parts of the success of our teams and of building really strong and resilient cultures within our teams. I know, talking to our fabulous captain, Daisy Pearce, when we were discussing whether or not she would play on post her recent injury, and she said, I will stay if Mick Stanier stays. That is the regard with which Mick is held as a head coach of women's AFL. There were many clubs that came after Mick and tried to poach him from Melbourne, but we're very, very pleased that Mick is here as our head coach of our AFLW program. Going forward, we have a couple of tough weeks ahead of us. We will make the top four. That is a given at the moment for our women's AFLW program. Whether or not we can make the top two depends on a couple of critical games in Freo this week and next week at Casey. So I'm sure I'll see many of you out there at Casey cheering the women on, and let's hope that we get that top two finish. It does give us an advantage going into the final. So the best of luck to our AFL women's program. Our AFL men, really, what do I need to say about the 2021 season for our AFL men? It really speaks for itself. I think it signalled not just a changing of attitude as this club in winning our first premiership in 57 years, but it also signalled a maturity of the club. And I think that's really something that you talk about when you go on a journey like the Melbourne Football Club has been on. We talk about a premiership year, and I always say that's the wrong term to use, because for us at the Melbourne Football Club, as many of you will know, this has been a premiership decade. It has taken a long time to go back and rebuild this club, but that is what we've done, and it has put us in a fantastic position, not only in 2021, but going forward. I have to say, people often ask, you know, how happy are you to have been the president that was in situ when we won our first premiership flag in 57 years? And I say that's fantastic, but I have to admit that I am even happier to be the president who lost two things in 2022, two things that I think 2021, sorry, two things that I think we desperately needed to lose as a club. And that was the so-called Norm Smith curse and the tagline of long-suffering Melbourne supporters. I hope that they are two things that disappeared the day we lifted that Premiership Cup up at Optus Stadium. This is a new club. It's got a new culture. It's got a new attitude, and it's a very, very exciting future. And I know that our CEO, Gary Pert, will talk a little bit more about that when he stands up and speaks. After the premiership win, I did some media the next morning, and a journalist said, what does it feel like to be back at the epicentre of the AFL universe? And I said, well, really, it just feels like where Melbourne Football Club should be. But of course, when you get to the centre of the AFL universe, you become the hunted. And this is where we are now. We are now the team, we are now the club that everybody else is hunting down. And what that means is we need to be tougher, we need to be more resilient, we need to be more unified than ever. And I know you as our members really do feel that need to actually get behind our club and our team. We had a few up and down years coming into 2021. We made finals, we dropped back down the ladder, we just missed finals. But as a club, we always knew where we were going and what sort of journey that we were on and how difficult it is at times to reach the pinnacle. We got there by making tough calls. We made tough calls all across the organisation, and I know that was something that was spoken about at the footy update and in the members' brief. We have to keep evolving. We have to keep moving forward. We have to keep challenging ourselves. We have to keep getting better. If we don't do that, we won't keep winning, and we need to keep improving at all levels. We know that. We have our players, our men and women who represent this club so proudly. We know every time they go out onto the field, they put it all on the line to win the games for this club. But they would be the first, I know, to say, and you've heard them speaking in the media about this all the time, they would not be holding up a premiership cup if it wasn't for the coaching and support staff that are around them. And I thank all our coaching and support staff who together have been such a critical part of leading this club to great success. It would, of course, be remiss of me not to, in particular, acknowledge and thank our head coach, Simon Goodwin. He's the coach of the year, he's premiership coach, but what is most important is that he is a genuinely good person. He's a magnificent leader of this club, and I say that as a leader of the whole club, not just our men's program. I think all of you would agree, more than anyone else, Goody's been a key driver of the team first, club first culture that we see displayed so strongly on and off the field. We saw, for example, Maxi Gawn during the grand final say, don't put me back in the middle because Jacko's killing them. Recognising that we need to win as a team, we need to do what we need to do to win as a team. It's not about individual best performance. After the game down on the field, Chris Petrarca came up and said, let's have a photo of the cup. And I said, Track, where's your Norm Smith medal? We were all mortified. He might have lost it. And he said, I've tucked it inside my shirt because I just want to have my medal on display like everybody else to be part of the team. That is the culture that has been built in this club. That is the culture that is displayed by everybody at this club. And we don't need to tell people what to say when they stand up in the media. We don't need to tell players what they need to say. That is how they feel. And I think our whole club is about caring for our peoples first. And Simon really is someone, knowing Simon well, his empathy, his genuine concern and care for the players is something that makes Goody, I think, a standout amongst head coaches. It's the reason that players respond to him so well. It's the reason that players go out and play their hearts out for their head coach every single game, because he cares about them as people first, players second. And that's something that they respect, and it's something that really, I think, sets us apart from other clubs. I know on behalf of Simon, I think I would like to thank all of you out there who've been in touch with the club to provide some really positive feedback and support following some media coverage, which I think we quite clearly pointed out in our club statement was both incorrect and misleading. That's very disappointing. And I know most of you out there have responded to the club and said you equally feel disappointed to see that sort of thing being printed in the media. But I think overwhelmingly, those messages very clearly said, Goody, we are all 100% behind you. So I have specifically said to Simon on behalf, I'm sure, of everybody out there who's listening today or perhaps watching this at some later time, just keep doing what you're doing, Goody. And I'm sure if it means you bring us another AFL Premiership flag in 2022 back home here at the MCG, from which we're coming to you today, then we will all be very happy about that. So I thank you, Simon. I thank Simon's support staff around him, and most certainly I thank the men who brought home that shiny Premiership cup that you can see in the image behind me.